everybody. Thank you for attending this meeting of Overview and Scrutiny Performance Panel on Thursday the 4th of December, my birthday. Thank you. I know, what am I doing here? I'm Deborah Platt and Arjun Singh's my Deputy Chair. When speaking, please do not obstruct your mouth to enable lip reading or use of closed captions. We're not expecting a fire drill, so if any of the alarms sound, please exit the way you came in. Please ensure your mobile phones are switched off or silent. And we've got some officers around the table tonight. Councillor Wilson's joining online. We've got Caroline Wolfenden and Michelle Horrocks and Bev Murray, and we've got Jennifer Mullins, and Terry Howarth and Asim Khan. Sorry, I do know you all, but it's some pressure naming you all. And we've got apologies from, declarations of acceptance, declarations of interest. Members are reminded of their responsibility to declare any pecuniary interest in respect of matters contained in this agenda. Does anybody have any interests right now? No, good. Should have done this, apologies. Oh, and Gail Wotton's joined us online as well. Minutes of the last meeting, which was on Thursday the 2nd of October, pages 3 to 6. Are there any items to raise from the minutes from the last meeting by anyone? No? Good. Do I have a proposer and a seconder? Councillor Green? Yeah, Councillor Brown? And do we accept those minutes? Yeah. Okay. Item 3 is Chorley Quarter 2 Performance Monitoring Report 25-26, which is pages 7 to 48. Councillor Bradley is the the executive member, and he's going to be presenting the report for us. And supported by Councillor Howarth. Over to you. Yeah.
Yeah, you threw me then, Chair. That's why he's here. From his sick bed, like Lazarus.
Councillor Wilson, are
you want me to do it?
I think you've been instructed to do it by...
Well, I think
you were doing it, Peter. I'm happy to do it, but I'll carve it up.
No, I quite rightly caught Alice saying that's the reason why I've joined online. It's absolutely right. As much as I always enjoy being at school, if one doesn't have a report to present on one day, choose to do something different on the evening. So happy to go through the report, Chair. The overall performance, as it says on the papers, has been very good, with 81% of the project rated green or complete. Of the indicators with targets, we can see 73% of our corporate strategy measures and 83% of our organisational measures performing on variable targets. So, in terms of some of those highlights, Chair, in terms of the projects and the big pieces of work that we're undertaking, we can see that the business grant programme again has been successfully rolled out. This time we've got the rural business grant, we've got the big positive grant, skilling grant, business improvement grant to encourage growth and expansion of businesses. The destination management plan is rolled out well. We are continuing with our programme of events. As you know, we've had things such as the fireworks, got the light switch on just gone, and we've got a number of events coming up to Christmas. We're going to have the first of these Santa's Grotto on just the weekend. So we can see that blend of events that build into the wider management plan that we're rolling out. We're reviewing the supported housing and accommodation across the borough. Again, we've done a lot of work in terms of looking at homelessness and how to stop homelessness and particular issues such as repeat homelessness. And we've also done a lot of work to address the growing issue of HMOs with the action plan that we brought to full council more recently. We've also been looking and taking actions to reduce antisocial behaviour. So again, work there done with the police, but also done with community groups and through some of our facilities, such as the Westway Sports Club, targeting young people and making sure that they're got plenty of activities to get involved in. In terms of some of the measures, just give some sort of feedback on again things that have been performing well. We can see that again, 449 businesses engaged by the council. So again, that's linking back to that work I was talking about before, which exceeds the target of 300. Our town centre vacancy rate is lower than the target, which again is a good thing. And we've seen the Rockefeller move into the Market Walk area, and of course the news this week that's been announced about Nando's as well. So again, that's excellent news, taking up more key town centre space. But it's not just about filling the space; it's about the fact that they bring in more people or spend into the local economy. So that should be something we can really build on. The overall employment rate in Chorley is at 85.3%. Again, that's well above the North West average and the Lancashire average. So we seem to perform strongly in that area. Planning performance remains strong, with 100% major and 98.75% of minor applications that are decided on time. And both council tax and business rate collections are exceeding targets. So we are doing very, very well in a number of areas, and also the average working days per employee lost through sickness is performing well. So we can, again, that's been reported in the past sometimes as an issue, so we can see that sort of appears to be balanced now, and we're doing better. So that's positive messages from the report, Chair. If I may now just turn to some of the areas where we're slightly off track. You see the first area where we're rated amber, the first project rated amber is the Gillibrand Street project. That is now, hopefully, we're going to get that back on track through the year. As it says in the report, we are looking there for a 12-week programme of work. So that has is due to commence, and that's due to complete by the end of February 26. So we're hoping there to have that delivered in the next quarter. The options appraisal around availability of affordable housing, again, that's rated amber, and that's been due to delays to the review with the registered provider framework. And again, that's now commenced, so that has started. Consultation survey opened at the end of October, so the review is expected to be completed by the end of January 26, so again, quite soon. And we should be reporting back on that, I hope, the next time. The renovations to Astley Hall, again, this is something that's been slightly delayed, rated as amber, but again, it's now got progress because the work has been commissioned, so the contractor has been made. And again, work starting in January 26 for a period of 6 months, so we should have done that by the summer. And then finally, the woodland site, again, rated as amber, but again, something we can see where progress is taking place through November, and we've got planning application. It's actually being seen now, so that's the thing. And we can again make progress with that start, hopefully, with a forecast date of summer 26. In terms of the indicators, Chair, that are off track, some of them are already sort of repeat offenders, let's say, but with some different news to report. So the number of affordable homes delivered, again, we can see that we are down on that in respect of that. However, we are clearly got the local plan going through, which is the main thrust of delivery. Once that is in place, that will guarantee that delivery. And that examination started on the local plan by the inspectors, so we are in that process, so hopefully that will continue to go well. The work also with registered providers is being undertaken to actually try and make sure that we can bring through those streams of affordable processes in the future. In terms of the number of projected jobs created through Chiltern Council support and intervention, again, this is something we've reported in the past as being off track because of the lag in the UK Shared Prosperity funding being brought online. That has now come through. That now allows us to start a number of those programmes. I'm hoping that as the year goes on, we'll see it pick up because we'll actually see a direct consequence of that, of those investments and grants. But for this time, they're still rated as amber. The number of 16, 17-year-olds not in education, employment, training, again, something we discussed extensively here at Scrutiny. That is still a target, but with a big improvement. So we can see that while we are still, let's say, off our target, we are much better than where we were previously. The number needs has come down. So hopefully that's a sign that that work we were talking about, those interventions, that one-on-one work that we're doing with those individuals is beginning to have effect. But again, we'll see how that pattern develops over the coming months. And then finally, as reported last time, Chair, the number of customers satisfied with the service they receive from the council. You can see again we're off target there. The current performance is 75%, set against a target of 80%. But if you recall, Chair, we did used to have a target of 70% for satisfaction. We thought that wasn't as well. That was a challenging target. It wasn't challenging enough, so we increased it. We increased it to 80. And we can see already that we've gone from 70 to 75. So again, while we're off target, the progress of travel, as it were, is very much in the right direction. And again, we'll hope that that will pick up and we'll get up to that 80%. That's a brief overview, Chair, of the performance, both in terms of projects and the key indicators and measures.
Excellent, thanks. Do members have any questions? Oh, Councillor McGovern.
It's more just a query to Peter. I'm looking at the. Sorry, I'm getting feedback. Sorry. I'm looking at the page 17, which is the number of projected jobs created, and I might be reading it wrong. Am I right in thinking that you aim? We aim for a quarterly target of 50 new jobs a quarter. Is that right? Because if we are, it just seems a bit strange, because when you look at the profile of the graph, or if you look at the bar charts, it's clear that with all 3 years, the profile isn't flat. So you get more jobs created in the fourth quarter than you do in the first quarter. And I just wondered why you would have quarterly targets of 50. I know we've had this discussion in relation to something else before. I can't remember what the indicator was, but it seems to me it's setting it up to fail if your rating is red, because you expect a target which you can see you're not going to get in the first or second quarter.
Okay. Councillor Bradley wants to answer that one.
Oh, okay.
It's my portfolio, I think. So, yeah, it is an annual target of 200. The quarterly target, I don't think is quite right, unless somebody can explain to me why it says 100, because that should be surely a half-year total. So it does, Pauline, you're right, it goes 50, 100, 150, 200. So that's the target, and it's split down like that because we don't have a particular period where we deliver it. That target shows a rising curve, and then it goes back down to 0 for the next year.
So does that not mean that every year you're going to be in red?
No.
In the first quarter?
No, because the first target for the quarter is 50. And the target
Oh,
for this
you
quarter
say it's
is,
cumulative?
So for the end of Q2,
it's not clear.
At the end of Q2, it should be 100.
Do put that on the.
Yeah, at the end of the Q2, it should be 100.
Yeah, no, it's just I didn't know it was cumulative.
So
I found it confusing.
Yeah, so it climbs up through the
year.
year.
Yeah, of course it does. Again. Yeah, thank you.
That's right, isn't it, Michelle? Yes, it is. So that's why it shows it like that. I agree, but we do some other measures like that as well. So it's too big. But overall, what we tend to do is track it through the year if we're heading towards the overall number. And a lot of it we don't fully dictate. It's because of our interventions, but just because we've given somebody a grant to take those people on, we don't always control exactly when they take those people on, because that means finding the right person, etc., etc. So, is that all right?
Excellent, thanks. Councillor Green?
Yeah, I've just got a general question about employment and average earnings. So in the report, it says that one of the limiting factors of increasing average earnings is the fact that we have a lot of service jobs in Chorley. So I think it's brilliant the fact that we're bringing in service jobs to fill the likes of Market Walk and stuff like that, and that you've obviously been very proactive to do that. In terms of trying to increase that average earnings, is there a strategy in terms of what are the high earning type of businesses we're bringing in terms of IT type businesses and that? So just I want to know just what sort of strategy we got in terms of trying to increase that average earning.
Right. So just to explain the wider situation again, and that's why I'm interrogator words to answer the questions, some of the questions, because our indicators are off beam. Chorley has a fairly reasonable level of actual earnings.
Yeah.
But the problem is it's the people who don't work in the borough who have the higher earnings, and people who do work in the borough have lower earnings. And we had the inaugural meeting of the Chorley Accessible Economic Partnership on Monday night, which has been reconstituted and reinvigorated to do just that. And what the Michelle presented to it, so she's far more detailed than I am, is that the way we get higher earnings, and some areas do have higher earnings, is have more manufacturing, and particularly advanced manufacturing. They tend to pay better, that industry pays better than service jobs and hospitality jobs, etc., as a sector. Not specific to the individuals, but as a sector. So, and it's quite interesting. So you can have high GVA, so Blackburn currently has quite a high GVA, but mainly gear around one company. And it's increased its average earnings quite significantly, but that's because of one company and the influence of one company. Wyre has similar because they have the Thornton estate and some of the companies on there which are advanced manufacturing. So those can tip your economy. Now, the question for us is what we'd rather see, though, I think, is the overall average going up, or the median, or whatever the word is I'm looking for, rather than just a straight average, because a straight average masks very high salary earners and very low salary earners. What you're trying to get is a higher level for the bulk of the cohort. The way we will do that is get more advanced manufacturing. We struggle a bit with that because we haven't got any single large employers. So if we had a British Aerospace or a Baxis or a Lela Motors like some of our neighbours have, that'd be easier to achieve. So we don't have any single employment sites that take a lot of people who we could then get advanced manufacturing into. What we tend to have in Chorley is more the supply chain to those larger entities, which are smaller businesses, and therefore to get a large increase in the take-up of those people, so companies like NIS, for example, and Lyndhurst Engineering, people who perhaps employ 50 to 100 people, but don't employ 1,000 people. So that's why we find it difficult to kickstart that. What we're trying to do through the economic partnership, one of the outcomes we discussed at the start was, how do we raise that median earning level? And some of that is about better upskilling, because one of the indicators that we're a bit concerned about in Chorley is our percentage of people with effectively a degree equivalent qualification is reducing. Now, it started off at quite a high base, i.e. above 40%, but it's now into the high 30s, and therefore that's an indicative of lower salaries. So there's lots of things going on, and if Michelle could share the slide from the other night, it showed that you've got this looking good, that looking bad, this looking good, that looking bad. And that's one of the reasons we've reinvigorated the partnership, because we would like industry's views on what they think are causing the blockages too.
Just have you also looked at, so it's one thing about manufacturing, but have you also looked at trying to employ sort of high-skilled consultancy businesses? So like in the northwest of England, it's obviously quite a high hotbed for my industry in terms of nuclear sort of people, which is obviously going to be going through a renaissance. Whether, and there's quite a big market round down sort of the Wigan way, sort of Warrington way. I just wonder whether we've thought about trying to, because again, you don't need a massive manufacturing facility. You effectively just need some decent premises. So again, have you considered that type of strategy and bringing those type of consultants?
We have, which is why we brought the digital office set up in at Strawberry Fields, because that was to try and replace something that you have at Dursley at Warrington, which is based around nuclear. We tried to do something different, so we weren't directly competing with them, but those kind of jobs are what we're after. NIS are one of the key, you know, engineering firms that do plug into them, but they're not consultants. But yeah, a valid point. But we're not actively chasing because, again, as part of the Lancashire-wide economic strategy, there is if you like, an energy coast. So those jobs are being targeted by the likes of Wyre, Blackpool, Lancaster, as part of the energy coast approach. And we're not supposed to be competing with other parts of Lancashire. We will do, obviously, and I'm being a bit candid here, but that's their speciality. I think we need to focus on our own specialities, which might bring in the same results.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, that was my question actually. That I thought that's probably why we built Strawberry Meadows, to attract different sorts of technical jobs.
It was technical, but it wasn't particularly aimed at the energy sector or nuclear, because there are other parts of Lancashire that are already doing that. So the idea was to hoover up some of the. I'm surprised. I think some of it's about space and the right location at the right time in the right place, which is why I'm interested, particularly in botany, where some of those buildings have been built, what they end up being, because I don't see them all ending up as sheds. I think some will be taken advantage of, but unfortunately sheds are cheaper to build and quicker to build and less risky than employee, you know. But that comes to, again, you're aware of this, Russell, it's in your area, Orbit at Buckshaw still have another office block plan there. So when is that going to get built out? Because the other one's filled up reasonably quickly. So we can get more modern office space, because the council can't keep building that itself. We need the private sector to do some of that as well.
Thanks. Yeah, Councillor Brown.
Thank you. A really good report, actually. Really nice read. It's great to see the focus on the stuff that we know we're not quite there with, and the improvements that we've seen since the last paper. It makes it really difficult to ask questions on, actually. It's really good. I do think we need to think about maybe stretching targets next time, because we're maybe a bit too good, but I don't know. Let's think about that. Just a couple of questions. One is around, on paragraph 22, around the business grants that we talked about, and whether we know how many additional businesses will be benefiting from that, or if we have any indication of that. And then the second one is about the performance dashboard, and it's probably me just being a bit daft. But if we do the first one first, I just want some clarification on what one of these bar charts means that I've been staring at and I don't understand. So.
Which bar chart don't you understand?
Oh, it's on the performance dashboard. It's the second page, and it's under an enterprising economy with vibrant local centres in urban and rural areas. And quarter 1 and quarter 2 is showing 20% green, 40% red, and I know it links to the first report. I just couldn't quite work out what that means.
What page is on that? I'm sorry, Michelle.
It's the second page on the actual performance dashboard that comes with the first report.
Oh my lord, yeah. Right. Page 27.
I can't see a page number on it, actually.
Page 27.
Oh, 27 then, yes. Thank you, Christine.
Right. I struggle with this a bit myself. Go on. Go on, can I explain this, Caroline? Is it yours? And then we'll talk about the other one.
So yeah, that's just showing a summary. So of all the indicators, obviously, that we report on, it's just demonstrating which ones are complete, which ones are the status is amber, which status is green. So it's just meant to be an overall summary across all the indicators that we're reporting on, or that we can report on at the time.
Okay, thank you. It's maybe the way it's presented, because it's in that second dashboard, it maybe doesn't link clearly enough to the first paper. I'll have a look at it again.
It's a bit busy, isn't it?
It doesn't, by the reader looking at that, you can't actually tell what it is, unless I guess you have to have the first paper alongside it to work out what it means, which bits are behind in that particular element. I think.
Through you, Chair, I did struggle a bit with this myself, if I'm being honest, and I think it's because you don't know what it relates back to. Yeah. So I think the question is do we have a little summary table above? Okay. It's trying to make it simple, and then you end up leafing backwards and forwards and trying to link the two things together, don't you? Just have a think, about what exactly maybe it is.
Which of those projects?
Yeah. Does that make sense? Through you, Chair, the other item was about the number of jobs coming from the interventions,
The
grant take-up.
The businesses who would benefit from the additional grants. if we had any indication of that.
I know in general, but I'm hoping Michelle knows a bit more detail.
I'm struggling to give you an absolute figure at this moment in time, but I can certainly get that to you, because obviously we're still in that process of processing the grants, but we've had quite a number, even though they're smaller. So we've got a number of different grant schemes running at the moment. One of them is an upskilling grant, which is around £500. So we've probably got about 18 businesses that have already been paid out for that, and then we've got another sort of similar figure to go with that to the end of March. And then we've got a number of other grants which are more capital works, so they're going through the process as well. So overall, I wouldn't want to guess, but we've probably got around 40 plus businesses that will be benefiting. But just to point out that the jobs as well, the projected jobs isn't just linked to the grants, it's linked to any social value arrangements we've got or any other support interventions that we do. So Growth Lancashire are providing business advice, so any jobs that are created through some of their advice and support, same with my team as well. So that all adds to that jobs figure as well as the grant.
And we're at the end of P7, 8 at the moment for the last reporting that we did in terms of getting the grants out the door that we've got allocated for this year. So I think the end of October, you haven't done November's yet, will you?
No.
So the October return, which will be P7, I think we were at what percentage have we outlaid of the grants? It's over 50%, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Way over. So we are ahead of the curve in terms of maxing out our grant spend, and that's not just giving it away. It's all assessed and and awarded and what have you. The risk a little bit is around people taking grants and then not delivering what they said they were going to deliver. But we have contingency plans, don't we?
We pay retrospectively, so they have to do the works before we pay them, so the risk is minimal.
Them taking an allocation of the grant and then giving it back. So we do have contingencies, and we've swapped a couple of the larger scheme projects around lately, specifically to avoid that happening. So, it's not that there's going to be a surprise and say that isn't happening, because once we see it's not likely to happen, we'll have a contingency to option B, and then we'll take that company then into next year's grant package, because they're not able to deliver it this year, and it's all about delivery for us, isn't it?
It's about 90% committed.
There you go, yeah. And that's deliberate, because we're at 100% committed, so we've got some spare capacity at this stage. So there's still time to do something, because it can get a bit hairy at the end of the year otherwise. Is that a fair comment?
Okay, Councillor Brown. Councillor Green?
Thanks, Chair. Just a quick one, follow up on that. So the grants that we're offering, that's above and beyond, isn't it? What we're actually required to do as a council. So it's a positive thing we're doing. So it's a bang our drum sort of thing on that front. Yeah, so that's good. The question I've got, just in terms of, I see there's been some success with NEETs, obviously, which has been a big topic right across the country, and I know the government's trying to look into it. But given the success we seem to have had, what sort of measures have we implemented, or where's the biggest success drivers from what we've done so far to reduce that?
Yes, yeah. So we had a event down at All Seasons, a cruise expo, called, and we had first kicks in that we've commissioned to work with on one-to-one with NEETs, and they were doing sessions on CV writing, interview skills, etc. So that was quite successful, and we had schools attending that, and I know at least one business was then asked if they would come into a school to do a presentation, so that's quite positive. They also, first kicks have been commissioned to speak to 90% of NEETs to actually find out what the barrier is. So is it that they're a carer and they can't afford the bus fare to get to college? So really trying to drill down on the individual issues, and then we can have a better idea of how we can support young people.
No, that's really good.
And through you, Chair, that was reinforced at the meeting we had on Monday night, Tuesday night, where it was the inaugural meeting of this business partnership, the economic partnership for Chorley, because there was a discussion by some of the businesses there about, how we would assist NEETs and what have you. And DWP said what we've been saying for a while, which is actually the first problem is getting these people to interact with you and talk to you. And the DWP said that because they can't get them to interact and talk to them. And they're the people commissioned by the government to get these people back into employment or training. So and that's what they said, didn't they, at that meeting, which said, you know, we need to, there are many different barriers in many different ways, and we need to treat each one as an individual issue. The other thing, just on that, and obviously people have picked up that from the report, Q2 always tends to drop off because that's at a point in time when probably the schools and colleges are losing touch with the people who left a year ago. So it does often drop at that. I think the reassuring on the positive thing, if you like, is it's dropped off a bit more than in previous years. So we're hoping that we can maintain that.
Yeah.
But like all figures, you don't know from a period to a period what the trend is. But there was certainly a commitment at that economic partnership meeting to dealing with this as a priority, because that's one of our Chorley and South Ribble partnership priorities. And therefore, as I said before in other meetings, there are lots of things going on in lots of different areas. What Bev's just alluded to there, but also, and this was mentioned the other day about support for apprenticeships on the national picture, about the fact that, you know, why the take-up of apprenticeships dropping off. And my own view is that's because it's highly bureaucratic, and the government needs to take some of that bureaucracy away, because it's a deterrent to employers. But at the same time as all that's happening, you've also got the national government, I'm going to be critical here, putting up national insurance and minimum wage, which for many employers is a deterrent to employing young people. You know, and we're hearing that daily from our business community.
Yeah.
You know, the fact that it costs a heck of a lot more to employ those people. Now, you know, obviously those people are deserving of the money, but by the same token, there's no point having a better wage if there's no jobs.
Yeah. I've certainly appreciated the support from, you know, the council in terms, I know the work that's been done at Buckshaw down at Lancaster Way, which, you know, Deirdre and I were trying to get that established, and we've got you delivering that, so that's a positive thing. So it's just interesting to see that there's already that sort of work starting to feed through and have benefits. So yeah, so thanks very much for that.
Switch myself off. Councillor Murray, do you think the reason why we're connecting with them is because we're going out to them, as opposed to just sitting here waiting for people to come to us? Because, like you say, other people can't go out and see them, but we can, because we're so local.
Yeah, I think that is probably true. And I also think as well, when the DWP and organisations like that are seen as sort of official, and that immediately sometimes turns people off and gets them to retreat. So having sort of an organisation that's used to working with, you know, young people, I think is more likely to be on their level and engage with them, because we can all sit round and think, well, this is the reason and that's the reason, but unless you actually ask a young person, you're never going to know.
You, Chair, the other thing we're pushing heavily for is that, and the representative of the skills portion of the CCA. So the CCA, the Combined Authority, the County Combined Authority, are getting a lot of money devolved from the government to do adult skills, which applies to, obviously, anybody from 16 years old. We want to be the delivery vehicle for that. And we said that at the meeting again very firmly on Monday night, because Michelle Lottie-Jones, who's the director or whatever, she's in charge of all this, was there, and I asked that specific question is, are you going to let us deliver it in Chorley and South Ribble, how we want to do it, as opposed to how the rest of the Lancashire County wants to do it, because it will be different in different areas. They committed that you know, they want to deliver through us, because, to quote her, you are the local experts. And we are the local experts, so I'm glad that's recognised, number one. And then number two is we need to make sure the money comes with it. So, you know, we all who were there in the room exchanged glances like, yeah, that's good. Let's write that down, because we want it to be coming through us, because then we can get it to the right places and support all this work.
Councillor Bradley, is that deliverable in places like the Youth Zone, for example?
And that was mentioned at the meeting, the fact that the Youth Zone is quite a good place to do that, some of that intervention work. And again, that was DWP that have done that, because they run various programmes through there, because they get to people that the DWP traditionally can't get to.
Find, yeah.
and others say the same thing, the colleges say the same thing, etc. Because everybody does their core business, don't they? But it's getting something that will do whatever it takes, rather than what their core business approach is.
Brilliant. Yeah, Councillor Singh.
Just a few questions for myself in terms of the indicators. Just a couple of indicators. Just want to have a look at in detail. So the first one, the number of affordable homes delivered. Obviously, we can see a bit behind target there, which is fine for now. But it's pleasing to see that the council has appointed a new affordable housing enabling officer. Could you let us know what specific interventions will the new affordable housing officer delivered this year? So not long term, but more short term. What will they be doing?
Yeah, I can do that. So she's establishing a partnership of some of the housing providers. So one of the things that we're doing is trying to encourage people to look at the affordable housing. Some of the housing associations are on there, and quite a number of the developers are on to make sure that they're developing the right houses and we're linking the right people together. A number of developers have said that they can't get partners to take their social housing off their hands. So it's about linking people in to look at the social housing and what they can join together. It's looking at agreements through planning as well, of what housing stock is needed in our area. So looking at our homelessness figures that we've got and what houses are needed, particularly social housing. And I think so there's quite a lot of work that's been done on planning with the affordable housing officer. So there's quite a number of activities that she's doing. Obviously, she's linking with the staff that in our homelessness team and in the planning team to look at what's really needed in the area and working with developers and housing associations.
No, thank you for that. Obviously, that's good to hear. And
could I just give some information on the stats that you referred to initially? It's a long-term issue, the stats, in the sense that a lot of the production, and don't forget, the council doesn't actually build the houses, it's done by the private sector, is on the targets that have been given by the government. A number of years ago, we were exceeding targets. In time, there has developed a shortage of suitable building land. However, we have a plan, a local plan, that should be accepted. And just to give you some idea of why these numbers actually are what they are, currently, on the existing plan, there is 470 affordable houses as the target. Last year, we delivered 296. If and when the local plan, which is actually being decided upon at the moment, goes through, that target will be 280. So we'll be within, when we get down to more realistic figures, as to what the area can provide.
thanks for that, Terry. Obviously, I think we all understand that as a council, we're not in full control currently of targets, and obviously we've got to take that into consideration with the external factors there from the contractors, etc. But a key point I think you made there, Jennifer, obviously it's got to be the right housing for the residents of Chorley, at least as a minimal, and obviously we've got to prioritise that the housing's ready for people in Chorley, not people coming from down south, up north, out of the borough. It's got to be here for local people. Obviously Alistair knows that too. My second point, if that's okay with you, is on the percentage of customers satisfied with the service they receive from the council. Obviously, I'm pleased to hear that the target has been increased to 80%, because I'm sure if Peter remembers correctly, Councillor Wilson, it was raised at the last committee, and I think it was quite negatively seen to see that obviously a 60% target is on the scheme. So obviously when you look at the 2021 census figures of around about 117,000 residents, given a bit of inflation, rounded up to 120,000 now, 60% is at 72,000 residents, which obviously seems quite low. But I'm pleased to see now that the target's been increased to 96,000 at 80%. 96,000 residents out of 120 does sound like a good figure there to be pleased and to be happy with us as a council. Just a couple of questions there. Then on that basis, has the council benchmarked other authorities' methods in increasing the responses that we get from these questionnaires and surveys? And then secondly, do we know what proportion of dissatisfaction is related to decisions the council can't change? Thank you.
In relation to, shall I take the second question first, which is the comparator with other district councils. This is a challenging area. There's not many local authorities that make the satisfaction information public in relation to the two specific measures in this particular satisfaction rating, which is generally captured at the point at which people, our customers and residents, access council services. So it's about how they were processed and dealt with, and ultimately the total kind of result from that experience. In relation to, so it's very difficult to kind of compare, not only in terms of percentage, but in terms of what people are actually measuring that satisfaction against. And we've got two specific questions that we measure satisfaction against, and that's what's reported. As you quite rightly point out, the level of satisfaction has increased. Last year it was 70%, the year before that it was 60%. And as Councillor Wilson alluded to, the trajectory is an increase of around 6%. In terms of the people who call and are not happy with the kind of end result, it is very difficult to kind of weed that out in terms of the numbers. But one of the things that affects satisfaction quite dramatically is not necessarily the way that people have been dealt with in terms of the etiquette of the interaction with our staff. It's about the ultimate decision that is arrived at, and some of those decisions are not necessarily what residents are expecting. So these could be strategy type responses. There could be things that we have to do for a reason. It may be, for example, their expectation in relation to an outcome about a planning application, which might not necessarily go their way. And so some of that is inherently built into the responses that they provide. And that does affect the quality of the overall percentage of people satisfied. We are looking at different ways of monitoring satisfaction using technology. Our calls are recorded. And part of the kind of enhancements in technology enable us to understand the interaction and the kind of sympathy, particularly in terms of the interaction, and some of the tone of which people interact with council officers in those cases, and analyse that kind of response to see whether we can manage and monitor performance more effectively, and ultimately efficiently deal with the data that comes from there in relation to why people are dissatisfied, so we can group that information more efficiently and respond to the improvements in services.
Makes sense what you said there, Asim. Thank you for that. Obviously, I understand where you're coming from there. Obviously, there will be a proportion of dissatisfaction always. That's out of our control. But obviously, if the council's looking into that to see, obviously, how we can obviously get better, then that's always good. When you mentioned about, obviously, the difficulty to compare, obviously, we've got a huge factor here to obviously take into account. Obviously, I know and I understand we have shared services, but are we able to compare the fact that we've got South Ribble next door? I'm assuming we have access to their data and we can compare the two authorities. I'm sure, given that they are separate borough councils, that we can do.
In terms of South Ribble, it is a shared service. So essentially, the measures that we apply to both councils. So it is the same data or the same parameters that we're measuring against for both councils.
So then my second question would be,
So it is the same levels of
are we
satisfaction.
able to see which councils basically essentially doing better?
I mean, yeah, it's possible to split that data because the data is available separately for each council. The point I'm trying to make is it's the same two questions that we measure the data again. So I suspect, yes, that is available. I can provide that to the panel.
It's just in case, if obviously at this minute, so we're in Chorley, and if Southwood was doing better, then let's see what they implement and let's get it over here.
Indeed, I can share that.
Thank you.
Excellent. Have we got any more? Oh, yeah, Councillor Hayden.
Thank you. Can you give us any more information on Civica and Select Move? I was at Charlotte Richard Parish Council on Tuesday night, and somebody had tried to access the housing, the affordable housing in Charlotte Richard, somebody local, but when they checked, they were only on offer to people of Liverpool and Manchester.
Well, that shouldn't happen if it did happen or if it's been falsely reported, because the actual policy is to give locals preference. So it might be a good idea to go back and check out that information. The latest information that we've had on Civica was delivered yesterday, and essentially the Select Move system is up and running, but glitches do occasionally occur. So it's a workable system with glitches.
Yeah. Thank you.
To get that example, raise it with our officers, our housing officers. So we should hope that should not be happening, should it?
Look, people from Liverpool and Manchester can't access Select Move at all. They can't get on Select Move. They've no rights to go on Select Move.
Unless they lie about their address.
Yeah, the only people that are on Select Move are from South Ribble, Chorley and Preston. And people who live in South Ribble or Preston can't access properties in Chorley unless for very specific reasons like domestic violence. There isn't, if they've gone through the Select Move, and that's what I need to find out, who's the delivery partner. If it's a partner that's on Select Move, that they're by the Select Move policy, they should be advertising it, but it may be a different provider, so I do need to look at that.
Yeah,
You
okay.
should take a photo of the screen and
Yeah.
send it to us because we're very interested in that. It shouldn't be happening, should it?
Thank you.
Great. Any more questions? No? Brilliant. So, are we accepting that or doing? To note the report and thank the executive member for his attendance and to agree any actions proposed earlier in the meeting. Are we okay to accept that report? Note that report, sorry. Yeah? Very good. Item 4 is performance focus, communities and leisures, pages 49 to 66. Are you making a quick exit? Yeah. Okay, so Jennifer, you're here to present this one. Can I hand over to you? Oh, Bev's doing it. Right.
Yeah, I just wanted to highlight a few things, if that's okay, Chair.
Absolutely. Sorry.
So, obviously, the Communities and Leisure Directorate is performing well, which is a credit to the council officers involved with the service, and the report explains in more detail about areas of responsibility, etc. I just wanted to highlight a couple of things. Firstly, on page 64, the red... Page 64. Yeah. So it's just the red indicator for the number of adults accessing the healthy weight and lifestyle scheme. There was some confusion that people thought that if they were to access it, then they would access the weight loss drugs. So we had a bit of a drop-off when people found out that that wasn't the point of the scheme. So now at referral, it's going to be made clear exactly what the expectation is. Also, the other red indicator on page 65 about the high-risk food inspections which are overdue. This is down to a lack of environmental health officers, not just with Chorley Council, but generally it's sort of a national problem. But we have put some resource in it, so that should be bringing round fairly soon. Then the other thing that I wanted to mention was the leisure centres. They continue to be challenging, and the report indicates that there's been a reduction of people using it, especially older people. So there's been a few changes in management at the centres. So we now have people specifically for different areas. So for example, we just got an aquatics manager who'll look at how we can increase the swim offer, etc. So we're hoping that with that it should develop and we should get back on track. With regard to the leisure centres, just some other information really. You may have seen some negative Facebook and social media about Brinscoll and the lack of access for people. So we are looking at a new programme up there actually. So the pool is open for school swimming lessons and for clubs, but there are periods of time when it's not used. So given that the building and the pool can be closed off completely and it is separate, we are looking at maybe doing some quiet swimming for people that might struggle in a noisy environment. Also approaching organisations like the Women's Refuge to see if they want to come in and use it, which would mean that if we did that, we could then start to tag on more public swim before, after and in the middle, and hopefully that would increase access. And we're also looking at opening one day at the weekend for family and fun swims. The other issue that I just wanted to mention, well, two other issues. There is some concern around Clayton Green because it's just a massive building and it isn't used as perhaps it should be, but we have now got a new group in called TAG, which has moved from another location because they outgrew it, and they deal with children that have got autism and other issues, and they really are in demand, that service, so they're hoping to grow their offer in our community centre, which would in the leisure centre, which would be great not just for them but for hopefully the wider population. And finally, All Seasons, the work is due to start on the gym in January in the new year, so I'm expecting we will have some complaints just because it's change and it's going to be inconvenient. We are going to keep it open and move stuff around, but inevitably there will be problems. So that really just sort of a quick overview of the challenges that we face. If any questions, we're happy to answer them. Councillor Green, yeah?
Just on the Clayton Brook, I just wondered whether the council could post some, that autism was sort of the activity and stuff. I'll post that onto sort of local websites like Whitley Woods and the Buckshall Beat sort of pages to try and encourage people or let people know that that's happening there.
Yeah. TAG do have a Facebook page, but yeah, we can do that. I'm sure we can look at doing something around that.
Yeah, cool.
Unless they specifically have to go through TAG to, because you don't want people turning up and queuing out without TAG knowing.
Yeah, well,
I don't know how that works. You know what I mean? It's
yeah.
like advertising someone else's services when they don't know people are coming.
We could speak to them and see what if they wanted to do it. They are quite active on Facebook anyway, okay. So I'm sure they'll...
Okay. Do we have any questions on the reports? Yeah, so Councillor Singh?
Just a couple of questions, Bev. I know you like my questions. Obviously, please, on page 52, the financial position, I'm sure Councillor Michelle Brown will help me here. It's nice to see an underspend, essentially. £21,730 underspend. It's good to see, and obviously there's been no agreed changes, so we've stuck to the budget and we've kept in budget there, which is nice and it's good to see. It's quite refreshing to see. So just wanted to check with you, Bev, and make sure that you're happy that just to obviously confidently say that given the underspend, we're not essentially compromising on any service. We are still wholeheartedly going out on all the services, and it's not, this underspend is not because we've scrimped and saved somewhere essentially.
No, it's not. In fact, I think the community seems very creative with what they're getting from other areas, you know, like the half money and other pots of money, and we are very fortunate that we work very closely with the community and voluntary sector, who again we support and they support us equally. So I think we have a good working relationship, and I think the communities team do a really good job, and you know, do try and get into communities. And with the cost of living action plan, I also think part of that, one of the sections is to collect data and monitor what's going on, which allows us to understand communities, but also allows us to look at any emerging issues that there may be across the borough. So I'm confident that we're doing all we can.
Good. That's nice to hear. And go on, sorry.
It would have been even bigger than that, underspend. But what we've done is to look at the underspend and what additional provision we can provide. So one of the items is half that Councillor Murray mentioned. So instead of saving the money, we decided to put some additional activities on in the October half term. So half is summer, Christmas and Easter. So with some of the underspent, we've been able to provide some additional activities for young people in the holidays. And also we've been able to provide some additional community grants as well with some underspend. So we're looking all the time to, if we have got any money we've saved, to spend it back out in the community.
No, thank you for that. And obviously it's good to hear, and definitely a credit to the work done there, Councillor Murray and Jennifer in the communities team. Credit to you there, very good. Just a second question from me on agenda page 53. Obviously looking at the percentage of households living in fuel poverty, it's better than the national average, which is pleased to see. Obviously the target being 12.1, we are currently 9.7. So obviously smaller is better. The trend is same as quarter 1, 2025 to 26. So just in concern of residents, obviously we're coming into the winter months now. Now's most crucially where some parents, some families are deciding, do they put the heating on or do they feed children, etc., which is a horrible thing to go through, and no adult, no family or no person should have to go through that. I think we all quite frankly agree. So could you just give us a bit of knowledge in what's being done to, one, reduce this, and two, to help people get through these winter months, essentially just to get through it and just to make it through to the summer months and not have to go through them difficult, terrible decisions they should have to. Thank you.
Okay, so we have an energy support officer who she provides advice for people. So what we've been doing is we've been linking people who are ringing us up in crisis through social prescribing, and this officer will go out and look at energy support. So it may be small items like insulation, looking at radiators and warmth. It may be helping them with their energy bills, supporting them through financial support, but also working with the likes of CAB to look at debt advice and debt management, also working with the energy companies. And then we're also working with, in Lancashire County Council, Fund Chill and Affordable Warmth, and they do larger items like boiler replacements, boiler repair, windows, loft insulation. So again, Sarah, who's our energy support advisor, can then fill in applications for them and work with them to be able to get the bigger items as well as the small items and small heaters. She also works with the housing associations, so if people who are in housing association properties, she will make sure that obviously contacting the housing associations, getting the boilers replaced and inspected. So she does a lot of work. So basically it's a bit of a hand-holding to get the right support in there, whether it's energy support or the actual property itself.
No, thank you for that. It was really good to hear and to listen. I'm sure we'll all agree. Obviously, it's really good that we're helping residents as much as we can here at this point, but it's also nice to see and hear that obviously we're looking at energy in particular, because obviously we all know what state the planet's in, and it's just going to get worse. But if we can do our bit to help the environment and the planet now, then would it be easier for the future generations? But no, nice to see, nice to hear. Thank you very much.
Councillor Hayden?
Noticed something that's a bit funny, that's all. On page 64, and we've got the communities and housing, number of adults accessing weight and healthy lifestyle support is under the bigger is better polarity.
Yeah, only the target, not the people. Yeah. Maybe we should reverse that target and add smaller for better. I've got a question on, just let me find the paragraph. Paragraph 55, you talk about the things that have been added to your list of jobs, which is the HMO action plan. Have you actually started on that? Do you have additional staff? Will you get additional staff? Are you using current staff time, and will they be pulled off other things to be able to do that? And will it be manned and staffed as you would expect it to be?
So we have employed a consultant in the interim, and we have just recruited an environmental health officer for a 2 years fixed term contract, which I'm absolutely staggered, which I'm very pleased about. So she shall start in January, but we've still continued with a consultant who's doing the housing inspection programme and carrying on. And then the 2 years fixed term contract will start in January. So, yeah.
So the consultant, will they overlap with this 2 year fixed term person?
Yes.
Or just continue until you feel like you don't need that person anymore?
They will stop as soon as the environmental health officer starts. We've also...
So they won't overlap? Well, they will overlap, but not for long.
Not for long. And one of the environmental health officers is now has been appointed as a housing lead. So we'll have a housing lead to specifically manage the housing projects in environmental health, and we'll manage this new environmental health officer.
Okay, and then I suppose the last question is that staffing enough for you to feel that that task will be done well, or is it going to be a little bit understaffed because it's a new thing that's just arrived, and obviously staffing and time and effort has to be put into it. Is there more that you would want down the line to go into that project?
It very much depends on, there's lots of legislation changes coming up in housing at the moment. So we've got the renters reform, we've also got supported accommodation legislation that's coming up. It very much depends on when they come in. So we've just been given some additional funding from the government for renters reform enforcement. So again, we're having a conversation next week of how we use that money, whether we get additional staff in from the housing side or another environmental health officer. And again, when the supported accommodation comes in, again, there'll be new burdens there. So probably we will need some additional capacity for those various pieces of legislation, because all of them will involve enforcement in some way or other.
So that'll be when you know what the legislation is and what you know the implications are going to be, and when that works its way through, more staff might be required down the line, but at the moment you can't pinpoint it because you don't know what the changes are. Brilliant, excellent. Any further questions for any of the officers or councillors? No? Do it through so everybody can hear.
I'd just like to compliment everybody on the success rates that you found with the reports. Been great.
Excellent. So I think we're just so we're just noting all those reports and thanking the officers for being here, answering the questions, and obviously for all their successes as well, as Councillor Hayden said. So the date of the next meeting is Thursday the 5th of March. Hopefully I'll be on my feet by then. And I look forward to seeing you. Have a Merry Christmas if I don't see you before. Because I'm not...